What's up, everyone? Thanks for coming on another episode of CYSTP. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Make sure to use that coupon code CYSTP at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. Sorry for the delay on this week's episode. It was supposed to be with psychic Barbara Bandel, who answered many of your questions that you sent in. So thanks for sending those in. But something is wrong with my footage on that one. So in the meantime, I don't know if you've checked this out yet, but here's one of a guest, my friend Brandon Morgan, bringing a hypothetical survival scenario for me to see if I can survive this podcast. So check this one out. Here is myself seeing if I can survive the podcast, seeing if I can survive escaping the assassination of John Wilkes Booth. Check it out.
I'm going to surprise you if you'll allow me. I want to turn the tables on you today and
Oh, okay.
see if you could survive being on the run from the Union Army in the spring of 1865 and if you would make better decisions than Booth did.
Oh, that's amazing. Are you telling me that you have created a survival scenario for me?
I have a loosely put together survival scenario for you. Are
Okay,
you
well,
game?
if I say A and the answer is B, I'm allowed to push back on these things.
Of course you are. Of course you are. It's a way of exposing Booth's flight from justice to your audience in a way that they'll recognize with a survival scenario.
That's spectacular. And, for any people out there listening, if you're going to be a guest one day, you might have to do your homework and bring a scenario for me. I like this. Let's see what you got. Should we jump right in?
Let's jump right in if you want. Okay,
All
let's
right,
jump.
get your notes out. Do what you got to do.
Oh, I've got it all. I have some notes, but I've got most of it up here.
All right,
Because
here we go.
you're from the area.
I'm from Maryland. I grew up in Maryland.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could flee the law in Maryland quite easily.
Now you now remember, you're John Wilkes Booth in this scenario. Okay. You're debonair. You're handsome.
Yep. Yep.
You own the city. Everyone in DC loves you.
It's pretty
Okay.
accurate so far.
You could go anywhere you want. You eat free in restaurants. Okay. You live in a beautiful hotel. Your mailing address is Ford's Theater. That's where you go when you pick up your fan mail every day. You're recognized in the streets. You don't try to hide who you are. Okay. All right. So, evening of April 14th, 1865. Okay. You've decided that's the night because you found out that morning that the man that you're going to kill, President Lincoln, is going to arrive at the theater where you call home, Ford's Theater, where you've performed on stage hundreds of times. You have free run of the place. Okay. That Abraham Lincoln is going to be there watching a play. Okay. So, the first question that I have for you right now, and some of these are more hypothetical. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
You're counting solely on the element of surprise. That's all that you have. Okay. Is the element of surprise. Okay. Now remember, you're an actor. You're theatrical. Okay. Do you use a gun or do you use a knife? Because you have set it up where you can get as close, you could sit in Lincoln's lap if you want to. Such is the element of surprise that you have afforded yourself through some setup and through your ability to move unimpeded throughout the theater during the show. Gun or a knife?
Well, good question. I'm just gonna say this. If I think I can get him alone,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going knife.
Wow, that's a personal,
So,
very,
so
very
here's
cool.
my reasoning. Obviously, it's a hypothetical, but I'm in a crowded theater. I have free reign of the place, but I got to get him alone. I got to use the knife because if people hear a gunshot, they're gonna be looking for me right away.
Uh-huh.
Now, if I don't care and I want them to know it was me and I want to be big theatrical, which is kind of my style, on the other hand, then I'm going gun. for the big bang and the drama. So it's all right. So now that we've worked through this, given that I am a thespian,
Hmm.
a man of great drama,
Hmm.
I'm going with gun.
Okay. And you nailed it. That's exactly why. He wanted everyone to know it was him. All right. The show is called The Ides of April. Okay. It's based on, I'm stealing that title, obviously, from the line in Julius Caesar, The Ides of March. Beware Caesar, the Ides of March. Booth set himself up as Brutus, killing the tyrant. Okay. He wanted everybody to know that it was him. Okay. He snuck into the theater, snuck into the presidential box, put a gun, this gun, I'm holding up a replica, the single shot Derringer,
That's a nice
to
gun right there.
the back of Lincoln's head, just to the right of his left ear, pulled the trigger.
Is it
Okay.
true that Lincoln didn't die right away?
He lasted to 7 o'clock the next morning. Okay.
Oh, man.
And then you know what Booth did after he shot him in the head? From the balcony, he jumped onto the stage. So everybody could see that it was him.
Yes, I remember this part of the story with the broken leg.
Yes. But there's we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So all right. So now he has to escape. Okay. Knowing what you know about Booth, okay, do you think he would stay in DC where he's got people that will protect him, or will he try to get out of the city? Now remember, it's late, it's after 10 o'clock, and the city has been shut down under general military orders that all bridges and and docks and all of that, after sundown, you can't pass. But Booth knows that the surrender has happened and that all of these regulations have kind of relaxed. Okay. So he's got a million safe houses in DC, or his ultimate plan is to get to Virginia. But does he leave now? Does he try to get out of town? Or does he stay in DC and let the heat die down?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I'm leaning towards stay in DC and let the heat die down.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the issue. Here's the issue. And there's no way you could have known this. But at the time, we all know about the Underground Railroad, okay? Harriet
Yeah.
Tubman and ferrying slaves from the slave states to the free states in the North. And it was treated exactly like a railroad. They used that same language. You had tickets, stops were depots, people who helped were conductors, like so you could speak freely and no one knew what you're talking about. There was actually a reverse of that, right? That would get Southern like prisoners of war who'd managed to escape Northern prisons to get them into the safety of the South. Okay. And Booth had set up uh, a network of people to help him along the way. So his intention was that he was going to be relying on his ability to get across the Navy Yard Bridge, right, which connected Washington D.C. with Maryland. Right, that's where he was going to. That's where he was headed. So his plan was always to get out of the city as soon as humanly possible and to utilize his network of help to get into the
Okay.
South.
Okay. See that actually does make more sense
Mhm.
getting out right away. If you stay in, DC is not a very big place. They can
Right,
find you.
right. So now we're coming up to the Navy Yard Bridge.
Okay.
Right, it's nighttime. It's about 10:30, 10:45. Okay. There are soldiers on the bridge. A young man named Silas Cobb was on duty that night.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Booth knows that his best chance of surviving this and going off into legendary status among the Confederacy, he's got to get over that bridge. You can't get into Virginia without getting through Maryland first. You can't get into Maryland without getting across the Navy Yard Bridge. All right.
Okay.
So he has two choices. He's armed, he's got a gun, he's got a knife. He has to get across that bridge. Does he rely on his charm or does he rely on brute force?
Okay. Is there one soldier on the bridge, or is there's one soldier? Oh man. It's another tough one, man.
What would you do? What would you do? If
You know,
you
I
know, you're
if it
John
was
Wilkes Booth, dude.
if it was me, you know, let me just think this through because I'm thinking what I would really do is I probably would try to charm the guy, but I would probably have my hand on my gun, like in my pocket, pointed
Just
at
in
him,
case. Yeah.
like in case he decides to draw me down. I
Mhm.
just shoot him through the pocket like the movies, like fucking James Bond or some shit.
Well, you're right, but charm worked for Booth.
Okay, so
He
charm
strolled,
with the gun in the pocket is the
he,
correct is
he strolled up. He made sure he was near the lamp, so his face was lit, just in case the guy recognized him as an actor, which the guy did.
Oh, and the
Okay.
guy back then, the guy maybe wouldn't have known that it was John Wilkes Booth who had killed the president.
Listen, exactly. And why is that? He was still riding ahead of the news. He was on a fast horse out of the city. The murder just happened 15 minutes ago. There's no
Yep.
he was betting that no one had gotten there first. That was a big gamble.
Yep.
Okay. And then this guy recognizes him and he goes, "Oh, Mr. Booth, what do you I'm not supposed to let you cross. What's going on?" He goes, Booth said he was going down to Charles County, Maryland. Okay. And he said, why so late? And this was the greatest line. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what the guy said. Mr. Booth told me that he had recently completed a stage engagement. And the guy felt like, oh, cool. You just finished a performance. Sure. Go ahead, man. And let him cross.
Perfect.
Now, so he makes it. So he makes it into Maryland. Now he's got to get where? He's got to get to Virginia.
Yep.
What separates Maryland from Virginia? The Potomac. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So now here's some, you mentioned the broken leg. Historically, we've been told that he broke his leg when he jumped off the stage, when he jumped off the balcony and landed on the stage.
Uh-huh.
That one of his boot spurs got caught in some of the decoration on the front of the balcony, threw him off balance, and he snapped his ankle. Okay.
It's actually pretty funny to think about his boots getting tangled up in the
Right.
curtains.
But here's the problem with that. All right. It was his left leg that was broken. Okay. Um, and there were 2,000 witnesses that saw him on stage. Okay. Because he made sure he stood center stage and that everybody saw him. And then everyone says, then he ran off through the back.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
mentioned him limping. No one mentioned him screaming in pain.
Hey, side note, no one ever
Yeah.
talks about what was the play? Was it a big
It
famous
was
play?
called Our American Cousin. It was a
Okay.
farce. Yeah. It was
Okay, it was a farce.
satirical. It was
Okay, so
a,
I just had to get that thrown out there, a
yep,
little detail that was important to me. So he
yep.
doesn't hobble off according to
Doesn't hobble
250,000
off. And
witnesses.
not only that, he's right handed. Okay. So how does a right-handed person get on a horse? You put your left foot in the stirrup and swing your right leg over. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So uh
Wait,
everyone
he was left-handed?
was right-handed.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right-handed. Okay. So everyone was watching him escape, put his left foot in the stirrup, put all of his weight on it, and no one said anything about it.
Can't believe
Okay.
no one else in the house had a gun on him.
And then when he gets to the Navy Yard Bridge, you weren't allowed to ride your horse across the bridge. You have to walk it across the bridge. And the soldier on duty didn't mention anything about him limping. Okay.
Okay.
And then Booth wrote, and here's why people historically believe that he broke his leg when he jumped off the balcony. He wrote in his journal, in jumping, broke my leg. Okay. Now, there was an account that came to light years ago of Booth's companion that he met in Maryland, a co conspirator named Davy Harold, that he confided to Davy Harold that he was thrown from his horse and broke his leg. So that passage in his journal, in jumping broke my leg, has come to be interpreted as jumping over something with his horse, was thrown and fell and broke his leg.
Okay.
Sometime between him assassinating Lincoln and arriving at a place called Lloyd's Tavern to pick up their go bags that they had initiated earlier that morning, they sent
Smart.
a message to one of their compatriots at Lloyd's Tavern. We need food, we need brandy, we need weapons, and we need maps. That's a good fucking go bag. All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
And I had him ready. But by the time they got to Lord's Tavern, Booth couldn't get off his horse, couldn't walk. His leg was so badly broken. Okay.
Oh shit.
So now, next question.
Okay.
What do you do about the broken leg? You know that by dawn, The entire Union Army is going to be after you.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you make a detour to see a doctor that you know to set your leg? Or do you continue on with your established stops on this reverse underground railroad to get into Virginia?
Man, you've done a great job with the scenario. Another tough one.
Thank you.
All right, let me just think this one through again because the fact that the army is gonna be on my ass
Mhm.
makes me want to keep going. But
Yeah, right. But have you had a severely broken lower leg when you're riding a horse?
I have not, and
Mhm.
I just want to throw it back to the Cade days
Uh-huh.
because his advice was always address what's gonna kill you first. So I'm gonna set the leg.
Absolutely. And you're 100% right. So they make a detour to the house of Dr. Samuel Mudd. Okay. Now, here's another question right away.
Yep.
Right away. Samuel Mudd's a homeboy. Okay. Co conspirator. Booth almost involved him in the plot to murder Lincoln because Mudd agreed to help an earlier plot that involved kidnapping Lincoln and then exchanging him for prisoners of war. Okay. Didn't know whether or not Mudd would be cool with, hey, now we're just going to murder people. Okay. So when you arrive at Dr. Mudd's house at 3 o'clock, at 3 in the morning, knowing that he's a friend and that he is thus far innocent of anything having to do with this,
Mhm.
do you tell him what you did or do you make up a story about how you broke your leg?
All right. So if it's me,
Yeah.
see, I'm balancing between being John Wilkes Booth and being myself.
Yeah. Sure.
Even though I know you told me I am him, but if it's me personally, I'm not telling him. I'm not telling him.
Why?
Be You don't tell him because he's going to get interviewed. And for one
Mhm.
thing, you don't want to burn your friend. If he knows, now he is essentially an accomplice to the murder of the president. If he doesn't know, he can reset your leg and you can move on, you know. So on the one hand, you're not going to fuck your friend over. And on the other hand, when he inevitably does get interviewed, you still want him to know nothing about where you're heading and where you've come from, because the less he knows, the less he can tell them anyways. So it's
That's
kind of a double win,
that's
So
great.
I'm going with don't tell.
Yep. Don't tell. And there was an additional layer. You thought through that really well. The additional layer was also one of survival for Booth. If he told Mudd right away, Mudd could say, I can't even set your leg, dude. I can't
Right.
I can't aid and abet the murderer of the president. I can't. And
Yeah.
now and now here's what's interesting. At this point, remember, obviously no phones, no TV, no Twitter, no internet, no nothing. Booth wasn't even sure if he had succeeded. He knew that he shot Lincoln, but wasn't sure if he was dead or not. Okay. He was, he would like up until now, he would say, I'm fairly certain that we assassinated the president tonight. So he didn't know. So he and his companion Davy told Mudd that Booth had been thrown from his horse and they were heading back to Washington, D.C. Okay. They spend the night there.
Oh, wait, side note. I
Yeah.
also got to add, especially because I know you're a writer, someone should write a show where Lincoln didn't die
Mm,
and he's just like all fucked up and he has to like solve problems, but he's just like all fucked up. All
it's
right, all right.
interesting.
Continue,
It's interesting.
continue.
The next morning, Dr. Mudd is in a place called Bryantown getting farming supplies, and it's overrun with Union troops who are looking for the assassinators of the president. And they use the name John Wilkes Booth. And he's traveling with a younger man. There's two of them. They might be in the area. So Mudd now is like, these motherfuckers lied to me. My buddy, my good friend lied to me. But he kept his cool, goes back to the house and says, hey, John, we need to fucking talk. He goes, I just ran into a bunch of Union soldiers saying that you killed the president. And what does Booth say? I did it. There's confirmation. The man's
Oh,
dead. I fucking did it. Yeah, hell yeah. And so Mud, listen, Mud was no friend of the black man. He was no friend of Abraham Lincoln. He was very, very happy that Booth did what he did, but he also knew that he was instantly complicit in the crime.
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Not sure just how badly he was going to have to pay for it. For basically honoring his Hippocratic oath, doctor has to set the leg. Okay.
That's a good point. It's a good
Yeah.
point.
But he went a step further and gave Booth supplies, reintroduced him to new steps along that reverse railroad. He said, you need to go to this guy and then to this guy because these people are burned now because you weren't there last night, so they're gone. And he also said, when the investigators get here, even though you're going south, I'll tell them that you went east. I'll send them in the wrong direction.
Oh,
Okay.
this guy's getting some prison time.
Yeah, no shit, no shit. Okay. So his leg is splinted. Great.
Yep.
Um, and Booth shaves his mustache, okay, to
Got to
hide
do
his
that.
appearance. Got to do that. And now they're off. And now they have to get across the Potomac River and they don't know how they're gonna fucking get there. Oh man, we're running out of time, but that's okay. Because we're almost done. So Booth meets a guy through friends, a guy called the River Ghost, who lived his whole life. He's a waterman along the Potomac. Okay.
Got a
And
badass name.
yeah, what?
He's got a badass name.
Yeah, he sure does. Fucking River Ghost, dude.
Yeah.
That's what the Union called him because he would just disappear. He could get people across the river. He could get supplies or spies or information, like anything across the river at any time. They could never catch him. They knew he existed. They couldn't find where he stashed his boats, and they could never find him. They didn't know his identity.
Mhm.
Um, so Booth and Harold, they had to, it's what's called the Lost Week. They had to live for 5 days in a really dense pine thicket until the Union troops moved out of that area and figured, all right, they're not here. We could go somewhere else. They had to let the heat die down. Okay. So now Booth asked every day, he said, bring us food, bring me newspapers, because he wanted to read his reviews, how
Of
people
course.
review what he did, right? Of course, and feed for the horses. Okay. Now here's the last question.
Okay.
What do you do with the horses? They're loud, they're hungry. Okay. They've been good animals to them. It was suggested by the river ghost, you've got to kill the horses. And Davy Harold's like, no, I'm not doing it. And the decision was left to Booth. What if we need them? What if the boat thing doesn't work out? We need to leave. And the river ghost is like, yo, it's hard enough for me to bring enough food for two men without raising suspicion in the town. But now I have to bring feed for your horses also. Eventually, someone's going to ask, and if they don't like my answer, they're going to follow me and they're going to find you. So Booth is faced with this task. Do I kill the horses or do I let them live in case we need to escape? What do you do?
Shit, man. And I just had a horse guy on
Hmm.
like a week ago. um I'm personally, let me just work this through. What I would personally do is I would not want to kill the horses, and I'm thinking that I need them. But if I put myself in Booth's shoes and I'm there with the river ghost and he's my guy, he's my guy. I got to go with what the guy that's getting me out is telling me. You got to follow your experts in that scenario. And it breaks my heart. I would probably plead with him. Can I just do the old movie thing and slap the horse on the ass and send it on its way? You know,
Right, but then what if that happens to be just as a patrol is a mile away and they see two horses coming out of the pine thicket,
I
right?
yeah, I think I already killed a human, so I guess what's two more horses? Yeah, so I,
So
I think I'm gonna kill the horses. I got to go
that's
with what the river ghost tells me to do.
that's what he did. So
Yeah.
he sent Davy about a quarter mile away from where they were to where there's like a swamp, and Davy shot each horse in the head one time. And historians for years now have been trying to find that spot because there's a chance that since they fell into a swamp, that these horses are preserved and they would have massive
Whoa.
historical significance. But no one's ever been able to find them. Um,
Was
so
that I'm curious, did you have other questions and we're out of time, or was that it?
no, no, there were maybe a few more um having to do with because then, then shit gets crazy. Then,
Yeah.
then
Well, we'll
things
have
start
to come back and do a part two or something.
well, I wanted to save the rest of it so people would listen to the show and
Ah, I
could
see what you're doing.
figure
It's
out
quite the salesman.
how the rest of it. But you did a great job, man. You would be able to assassinate someone and escape through the Maryland countryside. Good for you.
Yeah, it would be no problem for me. Hypothetically speaking.
Sure, hypothetically speaking. But anyway, listen, the show is called The Ides of April. Maybe we'll do some feed drop swaps when it comes out, and
Yeah.
we'll promote each other. And
Do you know when it's out?
I hope people listen to it. No, I have a meeting with the network next week, and we're figuring out the schedule. But I would say within a month it's going to come out.
When it comes out, we'll do an announcement on the show.
Yeah, we'll do another thing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, well done. You've survived. You survived the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Good for you.
Thank you, my friend. That was a blast.
That was fun, man. I'm glad you were game to have the tables turned. Has anyone done that to you before?
No, that was the
Oh,
first
come
time.
on. No
Yeah.
shit. All right,
Yeah.
great. Glad
Super
that
stoked
worked.
on that. Yeah.
Glad that
Appreciate
worked
it.
out.
Thanks for
Well,
coming on the show.